going to start with a neutral gray primer, and then we're going to add a base layer of ivory tusk by 2 thin coats. We can use an airbrush for this like I did, or we could use a sponge or hand brush it on. I've skipped over the tedium of painting the base layers, but for those I used marine blue by 2 thin coats, as well as Gizmo fur for the yellow, Dungeon Stone gray for the gray of the mace, and Citadel's Mephiston red for the red, as well as Citadel's Skavenblight dinge for the gray of the joints. With that base coating done, we're going to move on to fully realizing parts of the miniature, and to start we're going to be using Basilicanum gray contrast paints by Citadel. We'll apply that contrast paint over the entire mace and let it do its work and stain that gray. While that's drying, we're going to take some black Templar contrast paint, thin it down a little bit with water, and apply it over the joints, as well as the hands. If you get it on your white, don't worry, you can just fix it later. Once the contrasts are dry, we'll move back to the mace and rebuild the color with our Dungeon Stone gray. It's okay if you're messy with the application of this gray. This mace is used to beat and batter things, so it will be messed up and rough in texture. For our next step, we'll do thick edge highlights with a mixture of neutral gray by Vallejo Game Color, as well as our Dungeon Stone gray. While you're painting this, make sure you add some texture, as well as follow the curves of the miniature and highlight them as needed. Once you're done with that highlight, we'll take neutral gray alone and do some thin edge highlights. This will really start to help define the edges of the mace. Following that, we'll take Sky Gray by AK 3rd Gen and mix it into our neutral gray and do some finer highlights. At this point, just pick out some of those corners where the light might be hitting, as well as do some little bits of dots to show a little bit more weathering and wear. Once you're done with the mace, you can go back to the Skavenblight dinge and rebuild it on your joints and hands. Afterwards, you can do another highlight with Sky Gray mixed into that Skavenblight dinge. These joints shouldn't be so noticeable, so it's okay to just do a little bit of highlighting, and we're going to leave it at that. We will then move on to our white, and for that we're going to shade it with Contrast Agaros Dunes, thinned by some Contrast Medium. The contrast medium will help thin it, and you do want to thin it a lot, and it will also help it stain a little bit better, more evenly. Once that's all dried, and it will take a while for that to dry, we'll take that ivory tusk that we used as a base and mix a little bit of the Agaros Dunes in and start to rebuild our white. Mixing in a little bit of that contrast will help us blend the two tones together, and it'll help us achieve a subtle transition from dark to light. Once that's all complete, we can take our pure ivory tusk and start to reapply it and rebuild our base color as much as you want. If you want more of an eggshelly tone, feel free to keep it less highlighted. If you want more of a white tone, use this more aggressively. And I really want to highlight how I worked on the arm here. It's a lot of small, subtle touches. These small touches go really far in making it appear as though it has a lot of depth. You can really see how the contrast of the shaded areas with the highlighted areas makes it really pop. And one of the ways that I'm highlighting it, as you can see a little bit more on the shoulder, is that I'm not highlighting as much with brush strokes, but I'm doing it with stippling, little stabbing motions. And what this will do is add a little bit of texture, but also give you a really nice subtle blend. Now that we've rebuilt back to that base color, you can really see a lot of that kind of eggshelly color is gone. And to continue to highlight, we're going to take Trooper White by 2 thin coats, which is not a pure white, but it's pretty darn close, and we're going to just apply it over small portions of the armor. It won't be super obvious as you do this highlighting that there's a change of color because they're so close to each other, but it will help the model appear more white, which is one of our goals. It is a Gundam after all. Finally, we're going to finish off that white with a pure white edge highlight. Mostly we're going to just be doing some dots on some of those corners which are picking up the light. Pure white is also close to Trooper White, so those highlights will also be subtle, but you want to be careful with them. Don't add too much because they can overpower you if you go too hard. We will move on to the yellow, and for that we'll take Two Thin Coat's Dark Sun Yellow and apply it relatively liberally over all of your yellow areas. You do want to leave some of that gizmo fur into the crevices just to have an easy shadow. Following that, we can highlight with Skulker Yellow, also by Two Thin Coats. Working on some of those small, harder to get areas like this, you may want to consider, instead of brushing it on, just doing some small dots in succession to look like a painted line. We'll finish off our yellow with a highlight of Yellow Flame by Two Thin Coats. Barbatos has these really thin red lines in the shoulders, and to do that, I'm just going to grab some contrast paint, thin it down with a little bit of water, and be really careful as I kind of drag my brush across it. The contrast paint will flow into it better, so that's why I'm using that. And once you've got that down, we can move on to the red and apply some Evil Sunz Scarlet to really punch in that red color to our red parts. We can then highlight our red with Wild Rider Red by Citadel. This is a pretty orange color, so be subtle about it. If you apply too much, it can really turn the model orange looking. With our red complete, we'll move on to our blue. And for that, we're going to take our Marine Blue and mix in a little bit of Elysian Blue from Two Thin Coats and apply it as a general highlight over the majority of the area. And once we're completed with that, we'll take pure Elysian Blue and do some thin edge highlights. If you find that the contrast between pure Elysian Blue and your previous mixture is too strong, feel free to blend them together a little bit. Going back and forth with your blending is a natural part of painting. To do some dot highlights on that blue, you can take a tiny amount of pure white and add it to your Elysian Blue and do some soft highlighting with that. So the Gundam's actually done, but what's Barbatos without a little bit of wear and tear? And to start that off, we need to know what color our base is, and for that I'm going to use Red Brick by AK 3rd Gen. What kind of dirt this guy is rolling around in will really affect how we're going to add that weathering onto the model. And our first highlight of that dirt will be Van Brace Brown, and I'm doing a rough brush on. You can dry brush, that's absolutely fine. I just find that rough brushing gives me a little bit more control as I apply it on. And for a final highlight, we'll take Cerberus Brown and also do a rough brush onto it. So with our whole red, we're going to take it and dab a little bit onto a rough sponge, and we're going to do some dabbing onto the model. Be careful with how much strength you put into your dabs, because sometimes you can go a little bit too hard. Soft little stabs with that sponge will add that paint in a scattered way, which our brain really can't do the same kind of randomness. So it would be difficult to accomplish that with a brush. The next little bit of weathering I'll show you is chipping. And to do a chip, we're just going to lay down a little dot of our brightest highlight color for where we're adding that chip. And it's okay if it's a pretty big dot. I'm going to follow that up with a dark brown, and we're just going to get in there and do a little dot on top of that white dot. And you can really see how that highlight on the bottom edge of your dark dot really makes it pop. You can also see I did the same to make some scratches on the leg here. Another thing you can do is take a dark metallic color and just do some dotting on your hard edges. The hard edges are areas that are more likely to get something to contact into them, so they will wear down and have some of that metal exposed. Another thing you can do is take a medium like that contrast medium we used earlier, and take our base color, our red brick, and just start to apply it over the feet. And you want to make sure that medium is the majority of it and not your red brick paint. And what this will do is stain the feet as though the feet have been walking in this dirt a whole lot. You can also do that with other colors, like I'm doing here with Mornfang Brown. This color, as it stains the mace, will look a little bit like a rusted effect. You could also accomplish this with pigments or even streaking grime or rust effects by various paint companies like MIG, but I wanted to showcase an easier way to accomplish that. And there we go, Barbatos is all complete. I'm really happy that I was able to showcase painting a Gundam in a warmer white tone rather than the usual cool white tone that we usually see Gundams in. I'll be honest, I wasn't sure it was going to work, but I think it did, and I think Barbatos right here looks really good. I am happy with how he turned out. I'm happy with how I was able to do some light weathering to kind of add a little bit more character into this Berserker Gundam. But I'd like to know what you think. Leave a comment down below. If you like this video, please make sure you subscribe and check out my other Gundam Assemble videos. I've got a lot of them, and I've got even more to come in the future. Thank you once again for watching my video and watching it all the way to the end. I will catch you in the next one.